Hi there, welcome to the Israel-Palestine report. I've been remiss, I haven't made one of these in a while, but I'll try to make these more regularly again. There's so much to catch up with. So really, I'm going to frame this around the most recent important development, which is the Israeli announcement of there's really no other word for it, a concentration camp in Rafah for the Palestinian population, for the entire Palestinian population, according to these reports. So let's get started. Um, the news broke with an interview with Defense Minister Israel Katz. That interview was quite shocking on several levels, and we'll refer to another element in it as well, where he said that he's ordered the military to prepare a camp on the ruins of Rafah, which Rafah is, as I'm sure you've seen, completely gone. It's been erased off the face of the earth. The initial plan, he said, is to move 600,000 Palestinians, mostly already displaced, into this controlled militarized camp. The aim, he said, is to house Gaza's entire population, over 2 million people. We should also note that on the same day, Reuters reported that a GHF had a PowerPoint talking about creating several concentration camps, which would then lead to dispersal of the population to various places with arrows pointing to Cyprus and pointing to Egypt. So it looks like that was rejected, and instead, this one camp concept, which is not a new concept, but it's the first time we've had approval that it's actually happening, will be put into practice. Kant said that the goal of this is the immigration plan, which will happen, end quote. Palestinians would first undergo screening before entering and wouldn't be allowed to leave. Israeli forces would control the perimeter. So I guess the idea, how would you get them to come in initially? I guess the idea would be you would stop giving out aid anywhere else and force them to come in if they want aid, leaving people who don't come in to starve to death or something like that. International law experts have, of course, called this illegal, to put it mildly. Michael Sfarad, for example, an Israeli human rights expert, said that Katz has laid out an operational plan for a crime against humanity, population transfer in preparation for deportation outside the Strip. Meanwhile, Amos Goldberg, who's an expert on genocide, said these are clear plans for the ethnic cleansing of Gaza and the creation of a concentration camp or a transit camp for Palestinians before they expel them. And this seems to fit with the plan that some other Israeli politicians have, like Bezalel Smotrich, Itamar Ben-Gvir, for building settlements in Gaza. Once the population is gone, there'll be vast expanses in Gaza open. Israel will then settle there. Netanyahu had denied that this was a goal of the war early on. He may have meant it at the time, but it certainly doesn't seem that that is true anymore. So this fits in with the Trump plan, fits in with previous plans, and is definitely a concentration camp. Now, one of the reasons Israel can do this is because there's been a collapse of Hamas rule in most of the Strip. Um, there's arguments about how much of the Strip Israel controls now, but the reports range between 70% and 85%. A source I talked to in the IDF said 80%. That sounds about right to me. There's very little left of Hamas at this point. Um, yeah, they still have a lot of people who are members, but the leadership is pretty much decimated. Their ability to fight back against the IDF is limited, even though today they did an ambush in northern Gaza, injured several soldiers. One soldier is apparently missing as well. A senior Hamas security officer told the BBC the following. There's barely anything left of the security structure. Most of the leadership, about 95%, are now dead. The active figures have all been killed. The security situation has completely collapsed. There's no control anywhere. End quote. There's armed gangs operating freely, no police or security enforcement. Six armed groups affiliated with local clans have emerged mainly in southern Gaza. Some of them are affiliated with Israel, some of them are affiliated with ISIS, some of them are affiliated with both. It's a mess out there. Of course, the one that's gotten the most media attention is one Yasser Abu Shabab. who reportedly was given weapons by Israel, and Hamas have placed a bounty on his head. He gave a really kind of fascinating interview to Ynet, which gives you some idea of the kind of chaos that's happening right now in Gaza. He claims to have wide support. He told Ynet, "My clan is spread from the Negev to Sinai. We're a big family, and everyone supports me." He also condemned Hamas because, he's working for Israel. He said, "Anyone who kidnaps and kills children is subhuman, vile, and despicable. Their end is near." He says he's supported by the Palestinian Authority and not Israel, although it seems that the Palestinian Authority is not much of a position to help him. So even if the PA supports him, it's Israel that must be giving him weapons. And he says that he will fight Hamas until the last one. Um, that shows you the kind of chaos that's happening in Gaza. And then there's been another interesting development in the West Bank, which is connected, right? If in Gaza you have Israel working with clans, in the West Bank, there was an announcement or an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal by Elliot Kaufman, where he said that there's going to be a sheikdom or an emirate in Hebron, and that Sheikh Wadi al-Jabari and other Hebron sheiks want to break away from the Palestinian Authority to form an emirates of Hebron. He claims to control over 78% of Hebron's population. This is a initiative created by Likud MK Nir Barkat. He's been trying to put this forth for a while. He doesn't believe in a two-state solution, but wants a kind of economic peace. So he wants to turn the West Bank into sort of United Arab Emirates model. And this is um, how that has been done. So what is all this about? Why are we seeing so much movement in trying to create alternative Palestinian structures all of a sudden when Israel did very little of that until recently? The answer to that is the progress in hostage talks and ceasefire negotiations. The Trump administration has put a lot of energy and focus into this latest round of talks. They made it very clear that they want this to end. They've tried to massage the differences between Hamas and Israel. I won't get too much in the weeds, but there are three issues that are still between them, three very important issues. One is um, aid. Israel wants the GHF to continue to deliver aid. Hamas does not. Israel wants to remain in Gaza. Hamas wants it out. And Hamas wants guarantees that the war will end, and Israel doesn't want to give them. Those are three major things. But the United States is optimistic and they're willing to pressure Israel, it seems, more than they had in the past. Qatar is willing to pressure Hamas more than they had in the past, so people are optimistic. I don't know if it's warranted, but hopefully. But Israel is thinks that it's a distinct possibility that these talks could lead to a ceasefire on every level. Netanyahu thinks that, Katz thinks that, Zamir thinks that, and the rest of the army thinks that. And that's why they're preparing for a sort of day after plan, very belatedly. And this plan involves clearly splitting up the Palestinian people into more and more parts, leaving maybe a rump of Hamas in Gaza, in 15, 10, 20% of Gaza, just enough to continue to have that division in Palestinian leadership, keep the PA barely alive, create a clan system in Gaza um, among the people who are in this concentration camp, create sheikdoms, emirates, whatever those things are in the West Bank, basically glorified Bantustans, in addition to the Bantustan that already is the Palestinian Authority. All this so that um, the Palestinians are too weak and divided after the ceasefire emerges to even begin to talk about a two-state solution or move towards peace. And there's another element in this, and that's settler terrorism in the West Bank. So we've seen settler terrorism increase daily. Anyone who's been following anecdotally has seen that happens every day. A recent report showed that there's about four attacks every day during 2025. Four attacks every day. Massive level of terrorism. Usually it's it's arson, sabotage. Sometimes it involves murder, firing of weapons, throwing of rocks, so on and so forth. Um, Israel Katz in that same interview admitted fully that he doesn't see what settlers do in the West Bank as terrorism. He said, quote, arson committed by Jews is not terrorism. The police instead should enforce the law. He said also that he's against reinstating administrative detention, which was canceled for Jews, but maintains it for Palestinians. Anyone who's been arrested for this kind of thing has been released soon after. And I think it's fair to say with these comments that Israel sees the settler terrorism as uh, part of its policy. It allows it to happen, and it's another way of scaring the Palestinians into leaving. It's hoping that once it thins out the population in Gaza, it can do the same thing in the West Bank through various mechanisms of control, especially when there's no government to protect them. Uh, the Trump administration doesn't care. These settler attacks can be part of what will become a wider policy of ethnic cleansing. Part of what I believe is an attempt to completely destroy the Palestinian people as an entity. I think that that's the policy that we're seeing as we head towards a ceasefire. So all that means that a ceasefire is probably more likely because Israel has a plan for it. But the problem is the plan is horrifying. The plan involves creating a concentration camp in Gaza, creating planned sort of nightmare in what's left of Gaza with Hamas left in charge of a certain area, trying to break up the West Bank also into small Bantustans while allowing Israeli settlers to continue to attack Palestinians. A truly horrifying uh, policy which undermines the prospects of Palestinian statehood, but also the continuing existence of the Palestinian people. Now, I don't think it's going to work, but we have to pay very close attention to what Israel is doing right now in the West Bank and Gaza. Right now, by the way, Netanyahu and Trump are meeting, so I'll probably talk about what happens there tomorrow and what emerges from that. Um, if you like what I do here, consider supporting me on Patreon at Shael Media. Consider subscribing to my Substack, The Grand Scheme. I just have a new article out about the death of labor Zionism and listening to my podcast, The History of the Land of Israel podcast, which I will soon be rebranding and relaunching. Thank you so much, and I'll see you here again very soon.